Most kids at 8 years old are playing with toys. Their biggest worry is simply what game to play next. But in 1965, in the dusty, vibrant streets of Kano, Nigeria, one little boy was playing a different kind of game. He was playing with profit. His name was Aliko Dangote. Born into a wealthy family, he could have easily waited for an easy life. But Aliko didn't wait for an inheritance. Instead, he bought cartons of sugar candies and sold them to his classmates. He didn't just want the sweets, he wanted the capital. He was learning the rhythm of the market before he could even solve complex equations. Fast forward to 1977. Fresh out of university in Egypt, Aliko didn't look for a cozy corporate job. He went to his uncle and asked for a bold favor, a $3,000 loan. In a country where businesses often fail in their first year, Aliko did something impossible. He started importing cement and rice, worked 18 hours a day and lived his business. He didn't just try, he obsessed. The result? He repaid that entire loan in just 3 short months. Many see the billionaire today, but they miss the 8-year-old with the candy box. This was only the beginning of a plan that would change the face of an entire continent. In the 1990s, Aliko Dangote was already the undisputed king of Nigerian commodities. If a family sat down for a meal, Aliko's sugar, salt, and flour were likely on the table. He was wealthy beyond measure, yet he was restless. Why? Because he realized he was building his legacy on a foundation of sand. As a major importer, he was merely a middleman. He didn't own the means of production, he was at the mercy of the world. Then came Nigeria returned to democracy, and a new dawn of infrastructure development arrived. Aliko looked at the rising skyline and saw a massive glaring gap: cement. At the time, global giants ruled the market, keeping prices sky high. Nigeria was a prisoner to foreign supply, and Aliko decided the time for importing was over. He announced a plan so ambitious it bordered on madness. He would build the massive Obajana cement plant in the heart of the Nigerian bush. The critics were ruthless. They expected him to fail, to crawl back to his trading office. The cement war had begun. It wasn't just about mixing limestone. It was a battle of logistics and political will. Monopolies don't go quietly. But Aliko had a strategic masterstroke, his own fleet of thousands of trucks. He didn't just make the cement, he controlled the road. When the gates of Obajana finally swung open, it wasn't just a factory. It was the largest cement plant in sub-Saharan Africa. Almost overnight, the candy merchant had dismantled a century of reliance on foreign imports. He made Nigeria self-sufficient. Aliko Dangote didn't just build a factory, he built destiny, becoming the wealthiest man in Africa by proving that a local vision can outshine a global monopoly. The lesson remains: don't just occupy the building, own the foundation. In 2013, Aliko Dangote took a gamble that made his massive cement empires look like child's play. He announced a vision that the world called impossible: the construction of the world's largest single-train oil refinery. To understand why this was considered madness, you have to look at the site. He chose Lekki, a desolate, swampy forest outside Lagos. It was a wasteland where nothing grew but mosquitoes and doubt. For 3 agonizing years, the world saw no steel, only sand. His engineers moved 65 million cubic meters of it. Imagine 25,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools filled to the brim with sand. That is the sheer volume required just to reclaim the land from the sea and create a foundation strong enough to hold the weight of a nation's dreams. Giant dredgers roared day and night, pumping a white sea of sediment over the marshes. The engineering was a brutal ballet of physics. Massive earth movers worked in endless shifts, their engines screaming against the humidity. On the tables of the command center, blueprints the size of bed sheets were scrutinized by Aliko and his lead architects. Every pipe, every valve, and every bolt was a calculated risk. The world watched with heavy skepticism. Every month of delay cost millions in interest, and the critics sharpened their knives as the costs spiraled toward $20 billion. Then the skyline began to change. The cranes arrived, behemoths of steel, some taller than skyscrapers, shipped from the furthest corners of the globe. They lifted the world's heaviest atmospheric tower into place, a silver giant rising from the dust. It became an industrial city within a city, with 30,000 workers living on site. A rhythmic pulse of welding sparks and grinding metal that never slept. Aliko wasn't just building a factory, he was forging a monument to African industrialization. Proving that a man with enough grit can turn a swamp into the beating heart of a continent. The steel rose into the Lagos skyline like a promise. But as the refinery took shape, a shadow fell over it. You see, Nigeria's fuel import business wasn't just a trade. It was a multi-billion-dollar machine run by international cartels. These traders didn't want a local refinery. They didn't want competition. If Dangote succeeded, their decade-long profits would vanish overnight. The resistance didn't start with a bang, but with a whisper in the dark. Suddenly, the project hit a wall of administrative hurdles. Loans that were promised were suddenly frozen. Crude oil supply agreements, the very lifeblood of the project, were delayed, tangled in red tape that felt like a noose. Then the noise began. A coordinated smear campaign erupted across digital screens and newsprints. They called it a white elephant. They whispered that it would never produce a single drop of petrol. They wanted the public to lose faith. They wanted the banks to panic. Behind closed doors, the weight was crushing. In a rare, quiet moment, Aliko admitted the truth. The stress was immense. He wasn't just fighting a business rival, he was fighting a ghost. He was fighting the government, the banks, and the international oil lobby all at once. Every door he knocked on was locked from the inside. But pressure does two things. It breaks pipes, or it creates diamonds. Aliko remained stubborn. He stood in the middle of the storm, and he asked the only question that mattered. If I don't do it, who will? This chapter of his life wasn't about profit margins anymore. It wasn't about being the richest man. This was the shadow war. It was a fight for the soul of a nation's economy. It was a war for independence. And in a war like this, there is no plan B. You win or everything burns. Listen to that sound. It isn't just machinery. It's the heartbeat of a continent. Today, the Dangote refinery is finally breathing. A steel giant born from a dream that many said was impossible. But if you think Aliko has stopped because the engines are running, you don't know the soul of this man. He is already moving beyond the oil, turning his gaze to the soil. His fertilizers are now flowing across the land, not just to grow crops, but to feed an entire continent's future. For Aliko, business was never just about the profit. It was about the pulse of the people. True power isn't found in a boardroom, but in the smile of a mother whose child is safe. Through the Aliko Dangote Foundation, he became the largest private contributor to polio eradication in Nigeria. He traded the pursuit of gold for the pursuit of healing, proving that a titan's greatest strength is his compassion. When you look at his life, look closely. See the 8-year-old boy in Kano selling candy to his classmates. Then see the master of oil standing before a global empire. The lesson is undeniable. Success is not about the money in your bank. It's about the massive problems you are brave enough to solve for your people. He looked at empty, forgotten swamps and didn't see mud. He saw industrial hubs that would sustain generations. This journey is a direct message to every entrepreneur watching this right now. Do not wait for the perfect conditions. The world will never hand you a clear path. You must have the courage to build your own atmosphere. As we close this chapter, remember this. In the end, your life's work isn't weighed by what you took from the world or the titles you gathered. Your legacy is defined solely by what you built for the world to stay long after you are gone. The refinery is breathing, the continent is rising. Now it's your turn. Go and build something that outlives you.